Karen property story time. Neighbor's daughter is taking advantage of my kindness, and now I want to move, with an update from what OP said they're going to do next. I, a 34-year-old female, have been in my apartment for about a decade now, and although there aren't any fancy amenities or updates done to the units, other than a random superficial decoration every few years, I'm super happy in my space. Plus, it's a 2-bed, 1.5 bath for under $900 a month in a good neighborhood, which is unreal. Through the years, neighbors have come and gone, but I haven't had any bad interactions with any of them. My neighbor to the left of me moved in a few years after I did, and we've always been cordial. He's an older man and shares the unit with his teenage daughter, who's 19, her 1-year-old, and her live-in boyfriend, who's probably like 20 or something. Everything's been indifferently friendly between us, until last year. December 2022. I hear heavy pounding on my front door. I open it, and it's my neighbor's daughter having a full-blown hyperventilating panic attack. Basically, the entire day is spent not only seeing her through her crisis, including taking her to the hospital and watching her baby and the boyfriend, but also mediating and talking her through the subsequent fight that her and the boyfriend got into later that day. After that, they're a little more friendly, saying hi whenever they see me, offering to take my trash to the dumpster for me, not anything over the top, but just more interested. Starting in October of this year, the daughter starts asking small things of me, asking if I have a charger block that she can borrow, if I could help her carry something to the dumpster. Very small things. One day, she knocks on the door and says the power in their apartment is out, and she wants to ask if I can heat up a bottle for her baby and make herself some ramen. Well, I didn't really mind at the time, so, I let her in. She did what she needed to do, and then left. The next day, she asked to plug her phone in to let it charge. Again, I oblige. She does her thing and then just leaves. A few days later, she knocks on the door and asks for a ride to the store. I say, yeah, sure, since I was leaving the house anyway, but as we're on the way, she adds in an extra detail that she wants to go to a specific location, not just the closest one. We're already out, so I say, yeah, sure, and how lucky for her that she meets up with someone at that specific location that has something for her baby. It's pretty suspicious, but I let it slide. On the way back to the apartment, she's telling me how she's trying to better herself for the baby and that her dad will buy cars and take his girlfriends out on dates, but not pay the utilities, not take her or her baby to appointments, and generally just doesn't support her at all. She tells me how much she doesn't like asking for help, and it's hard for her to reach out to people. It hits close to home because, same honestly, so I give her my number and tell her that if she needs something and absolutely can't find anyone else, and I'm not busy, I try to help out the best way that I could. Since then, she's asked for money to cut the lights back on one occasion, $30 that she claimed she'd pay back with interest, but never did. On another occasion, $20 that I didn't give her. A ride to the gas station where she paid over twice that amount for vapes for herself and her boyfriend, a ride to pick up her boyfriend at 10 o'clock at night, a ride to take her boyfriend to work, non-slip shoes for a job that she just got, money for the shoes when I said I didn't have those kinds of shoes. Food for the baby, and some other small things here and there. She does have an extended support system. Her mom is in the picture, as is her sister and brother. I know because I've seen them and she's talked about them. But she seems to be skipping over those people to come directly to me for things. I'm now regretting helping her at all, but I feel stuck since I did extend my assistance, albeit with qualifiers. And because I'm too chicken crap to tell her to stop asking me for stuff, I'm searching for a new place to live, knowing that I'll never find the deal on rent that I'm currently getting. I could be overreacting, I'm fully aware. This could very well be a get off of my lawn situation, but dang it, I'm tired of playing mom to basically two grown butt people with a freaking baby. Is there a gentle way of telling her to leave me alone, or should I continue the apartment hunt and get the heck out of here? The update. You guys were tough and fair, and most importantly, 100% right. I'm not going to let a child push me out of my home. Since posting this and reading your suggestions, I've been texted and called by her several times. I let the calls go to voicemail and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. She asked me for money, and I told her that I didn't have it. No extra explanation. She's now texting me asking to use my phone to call her child's doctor at 5 o'clock p.m. Yeah, okay. I'll be in meetings for the rest of the night. I think I didn't want to flat out tell her no, because the bleeding heart that I am don't want to be just another person who's let her down. But you guys are spot on. She is not my responsibility. If I keep letting her use me, I'll end up adopting her, the baby daddy, and the baby. Yeah, there's a difference between helping somebody and then they see that and then continually take advantage of you, because once that cycle starts, you gotta nip it in the bud and make it stop. Ideally sooner than later. You ever been in this one? Let me know. Lawyer makes post-car accident worse for his client. Posted by Desert Dweller. I used to work in the claims department for one of the top auto insurance companies in America. I get a phone call from a lawyer looking to file a new accident claim for his client. His client is also my customer. I explained that I can take the initial report from the lawyer, but will be contacting the client to get his side of the story. The lawyer immediately tells me that I am not to contact the client because he is being represented by a lawyer. I explain that until I have an official letter of representation on file, I have every right to contact the client. So anyway, I proceed to gather all the details from the lawyer. Once I finish filing the claim, I generate a claim number and give it to the lawyer. The lawyer was stalling me a little bit, and I soon realized why. He was using the time to get an official letter of representation on file so I couldn't contact his client, also my customer, which he did, and now I'm not able to speak with the client unless given permission by the lawyer. The lawyer was a total pompous butt and was definitely trying to throw his weight around just to show that he was important. He definitely thought that he was putting me in my place. He proceeds to tell me that the client has minor injuries such as back and neck pain and is going to see a doctor. I explained that the client may see whatever doctor he wishes, but that it's best to have us get in contact with his doctor of choice as soon as possible so we can start using the coverage to pay for any medical bills. The lawyer gets all huffy-puffy with me and tells me that the client will go see a doctor and get all the medical help that he needs, and once it's all done and over with, he will send us a bill that we will be required to pay in full. I explain that it doesn't work that way. Some doctors require certain payments from insurance companies up front, or at least be in contact with the insurance company to confirm that certain payments will be paid. I also explained that the client only had a certain amount of coverage that he pays for. We are not required as an insurance company to pay more than what the client has on his policy. So, for example, if the client has $10,000 in coverage, we would only pay half of a $20,000 medical bill. I also explained that if the doctor hasn't been in contact with an insurance company, they may charge the client and the client will have to go through a different, longer process for us to reimburse him than if we just paid the doctor up front. Now, I know that all this sounds like a bunch of corporate BS, and it is, but I don't make the rules. I'm really trying my hardest to make this as easy as possible for the client, but the lawyer just isn't having it at all. The lawyer demands that the client will go to whatever doctor he wants and will receive whatever treatment he wants, and that we will pay for it in full, and the client will pay nothing out of pocket regardless of the cost of treatment. I went back and forth with the lawyer, but eventually you gotta understand that you're just going in circles and it's time to just take the loss. So I do, and we move on to the vehicle. Lawyer says it's damaged, but the client drove the car from the accident scene straight to the lawyer's office. The windshield was damaged and there were fluids leaking from the car. I recommended that we tow the vehicle to a repair shop, and I explained the customer had towing coverage and we can get a tow truck free of charge. The lawyer refuses and says the client can drive the car. The lawyer also demands that the client uses a repair shop of his choice. I explained to the lawyer that the client is absolutely allowed to use a shop of his choice, but that we have to send an adjuster out to the car to inspect the damage and give a quote to the repair shop. The reason we did this is a lot of times body shops will take advantage of insurance companies because they know we will pay and the shops fix things that don't need to be fixed and purposely buy more expensive parts to hike up the price. It's pretty much insurance fraud. So we usually send an expert of our own out to assess the damage and write up a fair and legit repair estimate. The lawyer refuses and says that he isn't telling us the shop that the car is going to, and once again, we will get a bill once all the work is done, and we will be required to pay the full bill regardless of the price. I explained that we do not cover the cost of aftermarket parts, only factory parts. It's listed in our contract. The customer agreed to this when he signed up, and once again, corporate BS, I know. But I don't make the rules, and I'm really trying to help the customer out here so he doesn't have a bunch of unnecessary crap to deal with. I argued with this lawyer for a long time about how things work and why the way that he was trying to handle this was going to end up costing the client money. The lawyer was on a path of destruction and was making every possible scenario worse for the client. The lawyer wasn't having any of it, and of course threatened to sue and all that crap. I finally gave in and let the lawyer do whatever he wanted. I knew the worst case scenario would come of this, and I figured I'd let the lawyer and the client feel the consequences of their stupid decisions and the lawyer trying to assert his dominance. I let him and his client do what they thought was best. I mean, why listen to the professional, right? What ends up happening is the customer takes the car to some sketchy shop. They do exactly what we feared and jack the price way up. They put expensive aftermarket replacement parts on the car, which we don't cover. The customer had to pay out of pocket for a bunch of stuff to the repair shop, and the repair shop took longer than the 30 days to repair his car, because the longer they have the car, the more they can charge. We only cover 30 days for a rental car, so the client ends up paying out of pocket for a rental car too. Also, the client had to pay some out-of-pocket expenses to his doctor. We ended up reimbursing him for the doctor bills, but it was a long, drawn-out process, and very frustrating. We did not refund him for some of the expenses at the body shop, which amount to more than $1,000. In the end, the customer had a ton more out-of-pocket expenses and headaches because of his butthole lawyer. I'd be pressing this issue finding out what happened, because you just don't let a lawyer take advantage of you like that. That's messed up, man. He's supposed to be in your corner, not his, trying to make himself look great. And in the end, it backfired on him. Shared fence dispute, posted by Readly Deedle. We recently moved into a newly built home in a development that has been around for quite a few years. Our home was on the edge of the newest phase, so our property is next to a home that was built 2 years ago. For background, my husband has a friend and coworker named Calvin. Calvin actually also lives in our neighborhood, and he carpools to work with my husband nearly every day. They have known each other for years. Calvin's in-laws turned out to be our new next-door neighbors, and they live directly to the right of us. When we first moved in, we initiated a fence being built with our neighbor to the left, and split the cost of the shared fence happily, as it was a joint decision and we decided to have it built at the same time. The in-laws on the right already had a pre-existing fence that was built probably before our home even started to get built. This fence borders our property. The in-laws have had Calvin ask us to pay $2,000 for this shared fence multiple times in the 5 months that we've lived here. They have never actually come to talk to us about it directly. Calvin just told them he would handle it, and he of course sides with the in-laws on the matter. They are very cold to us every time we see them, and they never want to converse. And we have just discovered it's because they think we owe them $2,000. The HOA encourages homeowners to share the cost of the fence. However, it cannot force a neighbor to share the cost if they do not wish to have it built or otherwise. My problem is that this fence has been there for 2 years, well before the house was built or we moved in, and now they're coming after us for this money and not even asking me directly for it. I don't think it's right for them to ask this, but I also want to be neighborly and protect our relationship with Calvin and his wife. I'm finding it very hard to see the fairness here. Would you pay the money and move on, or hold firm that this is an inappropriate request? The commenters got it. They say, why would you pay money for a fence that someone else built 2 years before you moved in? And take the fact that they never want to converse with you as a blessing. Firmly tell Calvin that his in-laws are nuts and that you will never pay them money for a fence that was built years before you even bought the property. I mean, this feels like I go to Walmart and I buy a bag of chips. I eat the chips on my way to your house, and then I make you pay for the chips that you never even ate or had any use of. This is silly. Entitled Karen at a packed restaurant, posted by General Snivy. For a bit of background information, before I share this short story, my mother and I went to Pennsylvania to visit my sister for about a week, as we haven't seen each other in person for over 4 years. During one of the last couple of days of our visit, my mother, my sister, one of her friends who she's living with, and I went to a local restaurant that she looked up via Google Maps, as we were looking to try eating at someplace new. Now, I don't remember the exact name of the restaurant, but I do know that it's on the riverside and it has tequila in its name. Now, onto the story. We arrived at the restaurant and parked in a parking lot across the street from the establishment, and we head inside. As we were heading in, we noticed that the restaurant is packed with lots of customers, and the place looks to be understaffed. There didn't seem to be that many waiters and waitresses on duty, but all 4 of us can tell that they are giving it their all to serve these people, despite the circumstances. One thing I was surprised about was that we were able to be seated so quickly, even if the place looks packed to the brim. So we sat down, ordered an appetizer, and waited patiently for it to arrive. During this time, we chatted about some personal things that aren't worth sharing, and when our appetizer arrived, the waitress forgot to give us the cheese sauce that would normally come with our fries. I politely pointed this out to her after she dropped off our food. She apologized, and she went back to the kitchen to get our cheese sauce. No big deal as far as from what I can tell. Our waitress is serving around 7 tables total, including ours. Eventually, we got our cheese sauce for our appetizer and then ordered our main meals. My mom got a baked potato with pork and barbecue sauce inside the potato that was the size of my head. My sister got a sandwich, I can't remember for sure, and some fries. My sister's friend got something else that I can't recall, and I got myself a pepperoni calzone. Our food arrived and everyone's food was correct, except mine. My calzone had ham or salami in it, which is something I don't like. So I politely informed our waitress that my order was wrong and told her what was wrong with it. She apologized and I told her that it wasn't a big deal. She offered to take the calzone back and have the cooks remake it, which I had her do. All seemed good despite the mistakes that were made so far. Considering everything that was going on, dealing with a restaurant that was packed with hungry people and being short-handed, our waitress was handling things like a champ until my mom and sister overheard an entitled Karen over at a table next to us. I didn't hear the conversation myself as I was staring off into space waiting for my food to be remade, which, by the time it was remade, it was done properly, which was nice. From what I heard my mom and sister mention as they were talking to each other, this Karen was complaining about how the food was terrible, the service was sloppy, and how they were going to complain to our waitress's manager about their slow, crappy, poor service. As mom and my sister were conversing, my sister's friend joined in the conversation as well to offer her own input, and as they were talking and taking all this information in, I agreed with everyone in my party that this Karen is just being entitled, and we were practically singing our waitress's praises as she worked her butt off, serving our table, plus several others at the same time. In the end, when we were ready to receive our check and leave, we told our waitress that she did an excellent job that evening. We thanked her for all of her hard work, and we gave her a very generous tip. I think we ended up tipping her $50 that evening, but I could be wrong about that amount. Regardless, we gave her a really good tip, and I strongly believe that we raised her spirits at least a little bit, which felt really good. My sister also offered to stand up for this waitress if she were to receive a complaint from her manager, shift leader, or whoever her boss is, thanks to this entitled Karen. Overall, the food was delicious and the service was top-notch. If Mom and I were to go back to PA again, we'll definitely revisit this restaurant and hopefully not encounter any more Karens who can't appreciate good customer service, even if it's being served right in front of their face. Karen messes with me and my property so bad, we make him move. Would have you done this? Find out why. My hubs and I got our first house 15 years ago. We're in a rural area, just houses randomly sprouting up along a small country highway. Next door was an old retiree with nothing better to do but be a pain in everyone's neck. House 2 miles down the road with too many junk cars? He'd complain to the county government. Did that new barn have proper permits? Report them. Was someone too loud? Call the cops. It's a rural country road, not an HOA. He ticks off so many people, they throw out garbage on his yard as they drove by. People would snip his internet in the dead of night and so on. Apparently this old jerk was such a Karen, he was actually chased out of 2 HOAs prior. A real peach. Let's call him Bob. Didn't like us moving in next to him. He had a nice, big new house, and ours was much more modest. He wanted to buy our property to expand his land, but was too cheap to fork up the money. Well, the housing market being what it was, we got our house dirt cheap and stole it right out from under his nose. Bob really didn't like us. The house was a fixer-upper, and Bob regularly liked to phone the permit office to make sure that we had all of our permits. If he deemed us too loud, there's a hunting lease behind us, guess what noisy things were going bang bang during deer season? He'd call the police. My husband and father-in-law have dealt with his kind for years, so they knew exactly how to mess with Bob. Working outside, they'd say stuff very loudly like, "Well, I can't wait to put up this second story on the house, and also, this pool will be so nice." Permit office would call us, cops would show up. "No, officer, I have no idea what you're talking about." After enough of these calls, they finally stopped responding. And then we could do stuff to really mess with Bob. We got a pig. He really didn't like her. Neither did I, but it was worth it. We got a rooster. He really didn't like that. We left our Christmas decorations up until March. Oh lordy, raise that man's blood pressure. We put up a fence. It was initially open across 3 lots and made his yard look like a bowling alley. I guess he finally had enough. One day, 18-wheelers were loading everything up, and he was gone. I was dancing at the fence line and waving bye-bye when they pulled out. Miserable old coot. I've said it once before and I'll say it till the day I die. If you have good neighbors, do not take it for granted because the bad ones will make you wish that they were not so bad. Trust me. You ever had a bad neighbor? Let me know. My fiancée Jane found out she was pregnant in June 2021, and we announced it to our immediate families in August. At first, Stepmonster was completely uninterested in our baby. Not that I expected much from the woman whose reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Jane if she was sure it was mine. Even my dad berated her for that one, but she barely seemed to acknowledge the fact that we were expecting. Instead, she was more interested in my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would give her beautiful grandbaby soon. No complaints. We didn't want her involved, and we didn't even have to say anything. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both me and Jane would have to work until the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. The due date was in February 2022, so we decided on early January as the best period of time. We enlisted 2 people as planners, my sister Laura, just realized I'd never given her a name, and Jane's best friend Nina. Me and Jane are mostly laid-back people. We didn't want a big party, nor did we want to spend too much money on it. We were saving for both our baby and the wedding. We decided early on that the shower would be co-ed. It would also have to be indoors, again, January, and we settled on a guest list of 25 people, plus about a dozen kids. We came up with the idea of a pizza party. Me, Jane, and Luke, which is my brother-in-law and surrogate son, have had homemade pizza nights weekly since I moved in, and we thought it would be fun to incorporate that into the shower. Nina found an event venue with a pizza oven, and Laura figured out ways to incorporate classic baby shower stuff into the theme. The resulting plans were awesome. Make your own pizzas, non-alcoholic drinks, and plain bodysuits for the kids to customize. Nina and Laura mixed pizza decor with baby decor and found pizza-shaped sweets. It almost seemed messy, but I was surprised that they made it work, but we loved it. Most of the planning was finished by the middle of November. Well, later that month, my stepbrother's fiancée left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years at that point, and it was both sudden and traumatizing for him. He was devastated. Stepmonster then realized the grandkids that she dreamed of would take longer to come than she thought. So, naturally, without her son's milestones to obsess over, she moved on to mine. Suddenly, Stepmonster went from aloof relative to excited grandma-to-be. Facebook post, tacky promoted to Nana shirts, the whole 9. At first, we were too busy finishing things up at work and getting ready for the holidays to worry about that. But it didn't take long for her to start pestering us about planning the baby shower as well as a gender reveal. We denied the possibility of a gender reveal party. No offense to those who like them, but well, we don't. Plus, we had decided to wait until birth to find out the sex. Stepmonster tried to get us to find out and tell her as a Christmas present, but we didn't. We also denied her the baby shower. She told my father, and he told Laura into letting Stepmonster help out with the plans. She was still living with him at the time, so she didn't have much of a choice. She called Nina and they met Stepmonster for coffee. Though I wasn't there for that meeting, Laura told me what happened later. Before they could even mention their plans, Stepmonster started talking about hers. According to Laura, she pulled a shockingly thick binder, complete with the words, "Oh baby," on the cover, colorful tabs, and pieces of fabric poking out from her bag and skipped to the shower section. It was short compared to the rest of the binder, but still long. And it was all to describe her one and only baby shower project. Laura sent me pictures and, oh boy, I'll give her this. It looked like the most Instagrammable baby shower ever. That being said, it was also barely functional and obviously expensive. There were balloons and oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringeworthy signs everywhere. Stepmonster was going for pretty over-cozy with uncomfortable chairs and some fancy food ideas that didn't look edible. Most of them had soft cheeses, which Jane couldn't eat. The color palette was just 3 different shades of pink with gold accents. We'd be fine with a pink baby shower if it at least tried to mix things up a little, but Stepmonster's pictures looked like Barbie had puked all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Nina tried to remind her that we didn't know the sex, Stepmonster said that she just knew it was a girl. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Stepmonster also wanted an all-female, child-free party with fancy caterers and alcohol. She had written down a guest suggestion list containing some of her closest friends, and neither mine nor Jane's moms were on it. And planned party games that nobody had any interest in trying out. Basically, the only thing everyone could agree on was to hold the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't given an opportunity to show her their plans until she was done. Once they could, they explained that while they could find a way to incorporate some of Stepmonster's ideas, they'd already settled on the pizza theme. She tried to protest, but Laura stated that it was kind of them to even offer that, as the shower was a month away and we'd already greenlit their plans. Stepmonster even called me to try to get them to change their minds, but I just repeated their words. My dad had found out that he couldn't come to the shower, so he didn't get a say in anything anymore. The holidays came around, and the subject was dropped. Stepmonster seemed to be okay with the pizza party. Nina managed to pair some of the pink decor she'd wanted with matching blue stuff and even added one of the huge teddy bears. Fast forward to a week before the shower. Jane was almost 8 months pregnant. Everything had been bought, all the guests had RSVP'd, and pretty much anything was ready to go. The shower was set to start at 7 p.m. Stepmonster offered to get to the venue earlier to prepare everything, and well, Laura agreed, mostly because she knew that Stepmonster would complain if she didn't get to do anything, and the venue even let them drop off their decorations before the party. Me and Jane promised to get there at 6. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called Nina. They told her that Stepmonster had dropped by to drop off large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise for us. She'd informed them that she planned on showing up at 3:30 p.m. to start setting it up. They were calling to reinforce that the venue was only booked past 4 p.m. since Stepmonster almost threw a tantrum when they told her that. All of the decor was still at Nina's place, so she called Laura to check if they'd left anything with Stepmonster. Thankfully, my sister is both smart and used to this crap, so she drove to the venue the next day and asked to see Stepmonster's boxes. She told me she wasn't even surprised at its contents when she opened them, but was still shocked at Stepmonster's audacity. All of the boxes were filled with pink, frilly decorations. Some of them seemed to be the exact same items that Stepmonster had initially shown Laura and Nina. the signs, the balloons, the placemats, everything. Laura realized that's why Stepmonster intended to get to the venue earlier, to set up the baby shower she'd planned and pretty much force us all to party and Barbie heck with her. She called Nina to figure out what to do. Neither of them could come at 4 p.m., so it was almost inevitable for Stepmonster to get her way. The most obvious solution they came up with was to throw everything away. But Laura had a better idea. That night, they called me and Jane. "Hey, want to destroy a party in 2 hours?" Laura got home and invited Stepmonster to go to a salon with her, lying about having coupons. She agreed, and they planned on going right after Stepmonster was done preparing the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, Stepmonster got to the venue. She was done setting things up by 5, and I'll admit the woman is fast, and quickly left to meet Laura at the salon. Once they were together, Laura texted Nina that the coast was clear. At that, me, Jane, and Nina went to the venue. Sure enough, Stepmonster had prepared her party. To make this shorter, I won't describe it, but I will say it was so pink that it almost gave Jane nausea. For the next 2 hours, Laura distracted Stepmonster at the salon while the three of us quickly took down every piece of decor Stepmonster had put up and replaced it with the pizza party stuff. We set up the activities, made up the tables, and put every pink item we found back in Stepmonster's boxes. It was actually really fun. We were done only minutes before the shower started. A handful of guests arrived before Stepmonster did, so I barely saw her all night. Laura told me that when they got there, Stepmonster's jaw dropped as she tried to make sense of what had happened to all her pink decor. My sister smiled, whispered, "Nice try," in her ear, and went to help Luke customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything we'd hoped for. Our friends were there, people had fun, and we had a ton of pizza. So I didn't really care that Stepmonster spent the whole party literally sulking in the corner. Nina did catch her trying to put little pink bows on top of the cupcakes, but she quickly shut that down. I give Laura and Nina full credit for saving the day. Stepmonster's interest in our baby quickly died after that. She stopped wearing her Nana shirts, didn't come to see us at the hospital when he was born, and refused to even acknowledge that he was a boy up until she met him a few weeks later. Up until we went no contact, she was a very loose definition of the word grandmother. I couldn't be more grateful that my son will never know her. Now this is crazy, but this is where the name Stepmonster comes from. OP says, "It's due to an incident in which she abused my child while babysitting, which led me and my fiance to get a restraining order against her. Long story." Drunk Karen accuses my front waiter and I of theft, ends up embarrassing herself, posted by Gold and Silver 61. Back in 2014, I was a back waiter on a cruise ship in Hawaii. The ship was in port on the northern island of Kauai, and my front waiter, who we will call Phil, not his real name, and I were working the dinner shift in the main dining hall. It was a typical steady evening until 2 ladies were seated in our section. One of the ladies, the Karen of this story, obviously had a little too much to drink. Red in the face, drunk and giggling, you get the idea. During the dinner, the 2 ladies were having a great time, smiling, laughing, and enjoying themselves. They were actually quite pleasant to wait on. The 2 ladies finished their dinner and left without an incident happening. Phil and I continued working, but about 20 to 30 minutes later, the drunk Karen returns. She walks right up to me and says, "My purse is missing." I replied, "Well, no one has sat at the table that you and your friend were at since you left, so let's go over there and see if you left your purse behind." I started looking around the table, and the drunk Karen shouts, "Don't look for my purse there." This startled me. After a moment of being a deer caught in headlights, I ask her, "Ma'am, this is where you and your friend ate your dinner, right? If you don't want me to look for your purse here, where should I be looking?" She says, "You and your other waiter took it, and I want it back right now." "Ma'am, we didn't take your purse. Is it possible you might have left it in your cabin?" This ticked the drunk Karen off, and she snapped back, "How dare you ask me such a stupid question? I would know if I left my purse in my cabin. I know you 2 took it, and I want it back right now." With her screaming, anyone and everyone who could hear her were now looking at us. Phil rushes over to try and calm her down while I went to find the restaurant manager. I filled him in on what was going on, and while walking back towards Phil and the drunk Karen, I warned him, "Hey, whatever you do not ask her if she left her purse in her cabin. I did, and it only made her mad." The manager thanked me for the warning, but told me that he had to ask her that as part of the line of questioning that he had to do in this situation. Sure enough, the drunk Karen got even more ticked off when he asked her that question. So now we have a full-scale investigation on our hands. Our section had to be closed down. The passengers dining in our area were inconveniently moved to other sections of the restaurant, and the security team had to come in and question all of us. Drunk Karen got even more ticked off when the security team asked her if she left her purse in the cabin. After the questioning, the security team split up. Some went to go look for the drunk Karen's friend for additional questioning, while the rest went to look over the security footage. They told us this will take some time, as there are multiple cameras that overlapped our section, and they had to review not only the dinner, but the 20 to 30 minutes after the dinner when drunk Karen and her friend left the restaurant to when she returned to see if we stole the purse. But they assured her that if we did steal it, they will see it in the footage. So now it's just the restaurant manager, one security guard, drunk Karen, Phil, and myself, waiting around in our empty section for the security team to finish their investigation. The manager and security officer did a good job keeping drunk Karen calm for a while, but she eventually lost her patience and screamed, "Why is this taking so long? I know those two stole my purse, and I want it back right now. If you delay any longer, I will call the cops, have them come on board to arrest those two, and I will sue this cruise line." Upon hearing this, Phil had enough, and he started yelling back at drunk Karen. I pulled him off to the side to try and calm him down, but he gets upset at me and says, "How can you be so calm? That lady is threatening to call the cops and have us arrested. Aren't you the least bit worried that we could be going to jail?" "Why should we be worried?" I replied. "We didn't steal her purse. The security team will verify this when they finish looking over the security footage. The purse will be found somewhere and everything will be fine, so we have nothing to worry about." This did little to no good calming Phil down, so I decided to change my tactics and said in jest, "Think of it this way. We're both still on the clock. We're getting paid right now to stand around and do nothing while we wait for the security team to finish their investigation. Think of it like we're getting an extra paid break during what would otherwise be a standard busy dinner shift." Phil did not find this amusing, and he yelled back, "Why aren't you taking this seriously? We could be going to jail and you're making jokes. Don't you have any pride? Where's your integrity?" So Phil's yelling at me, drunk Karen is yelling at us, and Phil is yelling back at the drunk Karen. Things were getting out of hand. Fortunately, a short while later, drunk Karen's friend walks back into the restaurant with the missing purse. When asked where she found the purse, you've probably guessed it by now. It was in drunk Karen's cabin the whole time. I didn't think drunk Karen's face could get any more red from the booze she drank and from how angry she was, but she turned 3 shades of red darker from sheer embarrassment. She snatched the purse from her friend's hands and ran out of the restaurant. The friend tried to apologize on drunk Karen's behalf, but Phil rejected it and he yelled out, "That lady came in here, accused us of stealing her purse, threatened to call the cops and have us arrested. Yet when the purse was found, she runs out of here without apologizing to us first. What a bee!" The restaurant manager knew that emotionally Phil was in no condition to keep working, so he told him to clock off for the rest of the night to calm down and that he can clock back in the next day once he's done so. The manager apologizes to me and asked if I could do the close down procedure for our section on my own. I had no problem with this, since when I was done, I would still be clocking off for about an hour earlier than usual. As I was finishing up, the manager calls me into his office and says, "Hey, I want to thank you for how you handled the situation earlier tonight. You were calm and collected while Phil lost his cool. Please don't think I was rewarding Phil by letting him off early for his bad behavior. You acted like the experienced front waiter, while he acted like the immature back waiter. He wasn't in the right mindset to continue working tonight, and I promise, in the next week or two, I will find a night to give you off as a reward for how you responded to the situation." Drunk Karen never returned to the main dining hall to apologize in person, but she did write an apology letter which she had her friend deliver on her behalf. Phil was still ticked and wanted to tear up the letter in a horrible rage. This time I managed to calm him down and convinced him to be the bigger man and just accept the letter. It may not be the apology that he wanted, but we are all still receiving an apology in the end. HOA Karen tows my car, but I'm not even in the HOA. Click the video on your screen so you find out what happens to that Karen, and I'll see you there.